Have you ever taken the time to just think about how important sinking funds are to our debt-free journeys? Seriously, no, just think about it. Sinking funds help prevent any future financial disasters we may encounter because we don't have the money saved up in the event we want to do something. How many times have you paid money for something when you didn't really have it, you shouldn't have bought it, and then you went into debt over it? But see, when you have sinking funds, you save the money up and it's already there. And that is one of the best feelings, to know that you already have the money saved for something that you want to spend it on. So in last week's video, I did a cash unstuffing, and I had a few people reach out to me asking, how do you get started with your sinking funds? How do you know how much money to put away? Do you determine a certain percentage? How do you get them set up? Sometimes it's just so hard. So I thought, since I just did a cash unstuffing, this would be the best time to address those questions. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what is a sinking fund and why do you need them. We're going to talk about the difference between the sinking funds and emergency funds. We're going to talk about which categories you should save for. We're going to talk about how much money you should save in sinking funds. And then finally, we're going to talk about where's the best place that you should keep the money you're saving in your sinking funds. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, you already know what to do. Kick back and relax, grab yourself a snack, and let's get into this sinking fund for beginners, or you don't have to be a beginner. You don't have to be a beginner, but let's get into it right now. The best way for me to describe what a sinking fund is money that you save for expected or planned expenses. And the best example of this that we probably can all relate to is Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, you know that Christmas falls December 25th every year. It never changes, right? So how a sinking fund can help you with Christmas is that, okay, we know Christmas is December 25th. How much money do I want to save for Christmas? I want to save X amount of money. How much time do I have to save? Well, I have at least 11 months to save X amount. So then you start to save that amount of money every month. So by the time Christmas gets here, you're prepared, you're stress-free, you don't have to borrow the money because you saved up for it. That's my best way of describing what a sinking fund is. Why do we need sinking funds? Just to put it point blank, we need it to keep us out of debt. I don't know about you guys, but sinking funds have seriously saved me from going back into debt. I have come from getting myself out of debt and going back into debt and getting myself out of debt and going right back into debt. It's a vicious cycle. But once I learned how to use sinking funds, what they were, they have kept me out of debt because they help you plan for future expenses so you don't have to borrow the money. So let's reference Christmas again. I can think back to a time when I didn't plan for Christmas, but I knew it was Christmas. Christmas was here. I didn't have the money for it, so I went and I would take out personal loans so that I can pay for my daughter's Christmas. See, sinking funds help you to avoid that. They help you plan for future expenses so you don't have to worry about being stressed out, and you don't have to worry about borrowing money, and you don't have to worry about going into further debt just to help fund this expense that happens every year. This is a great question. So people get this confused a lot. People confuse sinking funds with emergency funds. So sinking funds are essentially planned expenses. You know this expense is coming up. You have time to prepare and save for it. You can put down how much money you need, and you go and you save for it every month until the time comes for you to use that money, and you already have it there. You're good to go. An emergency fund is different. An emergency fund is a unplanned expense. It's an unexpected expense. It's something that takes place that you're not aware of. Think about it. Are you planning for your car to break down? No. You can save for it to break down, but you don't plan for that. Are you planning for your vet bill to be $1,200? No. So an emergency fund is something we save for in the event the unexpected happens. And that's the difference between the two of them. So when you look at this list here, here's an example of some sinking funds, most common sinking funds that we use. And then here's an example of what we use emergency funds for. It's very important not to confuse the two because you need to prioritize which ones are more important. There are some things that may be more important from this emergency fund list. but there's some things that may be more important in this sinking fund list that you want to take care of. So you got to know the difference between the two, because it's really going to help determine how you set up your budget to save for both of them. Oh my gosh, this is such a great question. How do you know which categories to get started with your sinking funds, right? Especially as a beginner. And I can relate to this so much. You guys, when I first started out, I didn't know which sinking funds to start out with either. And I was watching budgeting channels and I had my favorite budgeters. So I would set up my sinking funds based on what I saw them doing. And to this day, I still have a sinking fund category that one of my favorite budgeters has. It is my tech sinking fund. I do not use this sinking fund. I don't do anything with tech, but they had it, so I felt I needed it. When I tell you this tech account, I've been doing this for 3 years now. This tech account has almost $1,000 in it. I've never used it because I don't need it for anything. So I say that to say, as a beginner, it is good to get it's good to get inspiration from different people to see what kind of sinking funds they have. But ultimately, it's going to take you taking a look at your budget and just kind of see what you spend your money on the most and what you'll need sinking funds for, if that makes sense. So here are some common sinking fund categories that we typically save for in the beginning. Okay, so you have Christmas, you have car maintenance, you may have vacation, you may have school. So there's different, it just is based on those things in your life, and what you spend your money on is how you determine how to set up your sinking funds. Now, how many sinking funds do you need? Well, my advice as a beginner, don't overwhelm yourself. And this is not so much, as a beginner, this is throughout your budgeting journey. Don't create so many sinking funds that now you're spreading your money too thin. You understand what I'm saying? What I mean by that is the whole point of a sinking fund is to be able to save money for those planned expenses, those future planned expenses. So when you have multiple sinking funds, you're putting less and less money in categories, or it's harder to prioritize what's so important because you feel the need to cash stuff all of them. So as a beginner, my advice would be to focus on those top 10 sinking funds that work best with your budget and your lifestyle. See, that's how sinking funds work. Do it based on what works best for you and not what others are doing. Because remember, it's your budget and this is your expenses you're saving for, and it has to work for you. I was just recently asked this question: how do you determine what percentage you put into your sinking funds? And that's a great question. One thing that helps me when I'm setting up my sinking funds is I do go through my categories and I set goals for each one of my categories. So if you ever watched any of my videos, you'll know that my sinking funds have goals, and I cash stuff them based on priority of that goal. So for example, I'm going to use Christmas again because this is a top priority for me. So I know that every year I like to spend for Christmas. I know this because I love giving back and I love all the things. I love the holidays. So a number that I realized that was a good number for me to save for Christmas every year was $1,800. Okay. So I took $1,800 and I divided that by 12 months. And when you take $1,800 and you divide it by 12 months, that's $150 a month. So step one is to look at, what do you want to save for? So for my example, is Christmas. Step two is, how much do you want to save? So after analyzing my budget and coming up with a solid number after over the years seeing how much I was spending, I came up with the number $1,800, and that works for me. So how do you save for that $1,800? Well, what I do is I divide that $1,800 by 12 months. Okay. And once I divide that by 12 months, now you get $150 a month. I get paid bi-weekly. So I can choose to take that $150 and save it out of one paycheck once a month, or I can split it and save $75 each paycheck. If I wanted to do it each paycheck, I got paid. So that's one way of determining how much money goes into your sinking fund categories. And so what you'll have to do is you'll have to write it down, and you'll have to break down what your goal is for your sinking funds. Okay, so I do that with all of my sinking funds. Every sinking fund I have has a goal. And then once I set that goal, I cash stuff by priority. So you have to look at your numbers. You have to do your budget. You have to see how much money you have remaining to go towards a sinking fund. And then my advice is to prioritize those sinking funds by importance. Also remembering that not every sinking fund gets money every month. Okay, that's an important tip to remember, because even though we have these sinking funds, that doesn't mean they get cash stuff all the time. You may want to, but think about it. If you have an event or you have something that's coming up, let's say you pay your car insurance with a sinking fund. Well, you know that payment's coming up soon. You got to make sure you're saving a certain amount every month to make sure that car insurance premium is taken care of. So if that's the case, you have your car insurance premium and you haven't saved that amount of money yet, but you know that payment is coming up soon. Well, some other sinking funds are going to have to wait so you can make sure you get the money saved for that. So just remember, when you're funding your sinking funds, you want to think about how much you're trying to save, how often you want to save, how often you get paid, and then that will help you determine how much money can go into each category. This is a good question because, is there a right or wrong answer? It's totally, someone said in my comments the other day, and it was about cash stuffing, and they made the comment of, why do you keep cash when you should just put the money in the bank and gain interest? And my response was you're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with the way that you do things. And it really is a choice. Some people, are just excited about saving and they're making it happen, that they like to have cash because it shows them their progress. Other people don't like to have cash. Other people just like to keep money in the bank and they move it around digitally. No matter what your opinions are on what's the best place to keep the money that you save, I think the most important thing is that you're saving. Because think about it. Has there ever been a time where you just didn't save, you didn't know how to save, but now you're learning this system, now you're learning more about what sinking funds are and how to prepare for the future. And it's just, to me, is you do what's best for you. You do what's best for you because this is your journey. This is your journey. You are on the road to saving. Some of you are probably saving more money than you ever have before. And so it motivates you. So what I say to that question is, to each his own. If you want to put it in the bank, put it in the bank. If you want to hold on to it and keep it in the safe because that helps you feel more accomplished, who am I to judge? Right? And I think sometimes we may have to think about that. Stop being so quick to put judgment on how somebody wants to save their money. That is totally up to them. My thought behind it is, I'm going to champion you because you're excited about saving now. You're excited about creating these sinking funds, and you see how sinking funds can help keep you out of debt. So however you want to save and wherever you want to place your money, it's totally up to you. Just stay on track and don't fall off track and get back into debt. That's my answer to that one. All right, you guys, so there you have it. Those are my tips on how to set up sinking funds as a beginner, or if you're established and you've already been doing sinking funds, those are just my tips in general. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure you hit that like button, and please consider subscribing. You will have a great time over here if you join our family. Thank you guys so much for rocking with me. I just appreciate it, and don't worry, the giveaway is coming. Oh my God, what am I doing? I am just not prepared for this giveaway, but it's coming. Don't give up on me, you guys. It's coming. So thanks again, you guys, for joining me. I hope this helps you on your debt-free journey. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. And guess what? I'll see you next time. Bye.